Forget the myth that empires were built of marble. Rome's power lay in water, a mysterious and life-giving entity that flowed into the city from miles away. For ancient Rome, water was more than just for survival, with baths being a major factor where people spent most of their days. So why did managing and protecting this fluid lifeblood of a vast empire become one of the most important duties of the state? Controlling this system was no ordinary task. The chief official was called Curator Aquarum. This position was responsible for the transportation, distribution, construction, and maintenance of water. The magnitude of this responsibility elevated this position from an ordinary civil service. The Curator Aquarum was one of the most powerful positions in Rome. The Romans built their waterways as open systems, magnificent arches, or closed systems, tunnels, depending on the terrain conditions. Open systems were easily contaminated. They were also vulnerable to enemy attack. So, what was the most difficult problem of closed systems? The most challenging problem was clogging in closed systems. Unwanted particles like dust and soil in the water coming from the source would occasionally cause the system to become clogged. Repairing this blockage to ensure water flow in closed systems, especially in tunnels, was a very difficult intervention. Therefore, engineers constructed sediment basins at certain points in the tunnels to collect the substances in the water and prevent the flow from becoming blocked. This not only cleaned the water but also largely solved the blockage problem. Sometimes a closed, sometimes an open waterway was used to facilitate water flow by exploiting the terrain's slope. However, sometimes the water needed to cross hills. In some cases, this was impossible using slopes. So, Roman engineers had to devise a new water magic. So, what was that ingenious system that pushed the limits of engineering, enabling the water to flow down into the valley and then rise again? This was a reverse siphon system. The solution was first discovered in the Hellenistic period, and the Romans developed and popularized this invention. The reverse siphon was an ingenious method that allowed water to flow from one side of a valley to the other, relying entirely on the laws of physics. In the reverse siphon system, although the water appeared to be rising, it never actually rose above the source's elevation. However, this method ensured that the water that had descended to the valley floor was still raised to a level close to the source's elevation. This engineering ingenuity served the Romans well. However, the system also had a weakness. The pressure in the reverse siphon system, which coincided with the valley floor, increased significantly, necessitating the use of durable materials. Roman engineers solved this problem with stone or lead pipes. The perforated aqueduct at Patara in Turkey is a prime example. The stone pipes used in the perforated aqueduct were designed to interlock, ensuring both impermeability and allowing water to be transported safely through the aqueduct. The Romans maintained a water supply by building aqueducts across deep rises and at stream crossings. These aqueducts are incredibly robust, and many remain standing today. The secret to their continued existence lies in the structural integrity of the structure. In these engineering marvels, as the height increased, the arches were reduced in size, and the piers were stacked on top of each other. Furthermore, the opus signinum technique, which made the structure waterproof, prevented water leakage. Thanks to these meticulous calculations, the aqueducts remained standing despite the passage of centuries. I've already mentioned the sedimentation basins used in Roman water systems. These basins were called Piscina Limaria. There were also basins located at the entrance to the city's water network, called Castellum Aquae or Castellum Divisorium, where the city's water was divided and distributed. Storage basins called cisternas or piscina could also be built depending on need. The layout varied depending on the type of source, topography, and the city's needs. Storage cisterns, or cisterns, were constructed according to need. They were preferred for backup purposes, seasonality, rainfall patterns, and military bases. For example, in Rome, water was often delivered directly to the castellum, or distribution reservoir, while in Constantinople, large cisterns became the core of the system. These cisterns served as vital backup power. The Basilica cistern in Istanbul and the Piscina Mirabilis cistern in Naples, Italy, are striking examples that have survived to this day. Piscina Limaria, or sedimentation basins, and castellum, or distribution basins, were widely used in both the Eastern and Western Roman worlds. Just before entering the city's distribution system, water arrived at the main distribution center, the Castellum Aquae, also known as the Castellum Divisorium. This shallow basin was a critical structure that divided the water into multiple outlets. Pipes originating from the Castellum Aquae divided the city's water distribution into three main branches. This hierarchy also clarified social class distinctions. In this hierarchy, the lowest pipe, Upper Publica, supplied water to the city's street fountains. Even if the water level dropped, the flow to these fountains was never interrupted. This was a fundamental right of the people. The middle pipe, Monera in Nomen Caesaris, distributed water to public spaces like bathhouses, while the highest pipe sent water to private homes. Water delivered to private residences was subject to a fee, and wealthy individuals formed consortiums to connect them. Access to water was a status symbol in ancient Rome. Even today, municipalities are responsible for bringing water to the city, and the reason for charging for domestic use likely stems from this. The main distribution system was often constructed using lead pipes laid in the ground because they were easier to repair. Lead distribution pipes can still be seen in Pompeii. However, in areas with low flow rates or for distribution to private homes, terracotta pipes were preferred. Vitruvius, discussing water transportation methods, advocated the use of terracotta pipes over lead pipes, citing the ease of repair of terracotta and the harmful effects of lead on health. To summarize, when water from the spring was transported to the city, it frequently passed through sedimentation basins called Piscina Limaria before reaching the Castellum Divisorium, where it was distributed. Sometimes, there was more than one distribution basin. When storage was necessary, large cisterns were used. You can obtain detailed information about Roman architectural water systems by purchasing the book Ancient Roman Architectural Water Systems at archaeoturk.com. Water was at the center of life in ancient Rome. It was the city's magic and essential. Bathing, health, and socializing were intertwined. Baths, in particular, became complexes where libraries, recreational facilities, and political affairs were established. These complexes were divided into two main types: the state-run thermes, free of charge, open to all classes, and privately operated